So when I get into Zoom, so this is, let's say, my initial setup after I've spotlit my videos, then I can take a look at my security settings. So I had set them up when I was creating the Zoom meeting, but let's say we're maybe 2 or 3 sessions into the semester and I no longer want a waiting room. So the students can just enter. So I go over here, I'm going to click the participants, and I'm going to go all the way to the bottom, and I'm going to click on the 3 little dots in the right-hand bottom corner. And this is where I get some of my functionality. So I can mute participants upon entry, so that's default. I put that in the settings when I was creating the meeting. Same thing for allowing participants to unmute themselves. So if you have a participant that keeps interrupting or that just isn't properly muted, you can unclick this. So now participants must request to be unmuted. And we always leave these checked over here so participants can unmute themselves because everyone is pretty decent with Zoom etiquette, so that's not a problem. Definitely always allow participants to rename themselves. There's a whole host of reasons why this is important, but that's really necessary to have there. If a participant enters the meeting and they don't have a name that's recognizable or that's something very random, you can ask them to please rename themselves with, let's say, their first name so that if they have a question, you can address them by their preferred name. So this is where place down when someone joins or leaves. So this I always leave unchecked because it's incredibly distracting when students join or leave as you are teaching to have a chime playing in the background randomly. And this is where you can disable your waiting room, lock meeting, and clear all feedback. So these are the options you have here. Another important place to find some settings. So you can go into security over here. So this is another way you can access these things. And also, let's say you want to see a participant's screen. They want to share something on their own screen. Let's say they're doing a presentation. So right beside share screen, there's a little green arrow over here. You click up and you can go into advanced sharing options. And these are my default settings over here. So I have it to only host, but let's say I want other participants to be able to share their screen. I can click on all participants, and then everyone can come up and present what they have. The ways that we get students to interact during a live Zoom meeting, or a Zoom lecture or tutorial rather, is a couple of ways. So one of the ways in which we can get them to participate is by asking them to raise their hand. So there should be, because this is my host computer that I'm giving this tutorial on, I don't have the raise hand option. It should be right in front of the yes button down here. So that's when we click on participants, the raise hand option should be here. So if I go onto my other device, I can press raise hand, and you can see over here in the participants list that my hand is, or somebody's hand is now raised. So you can ask the students to please raise your hand, and then you can say, yes, Andrea, go ahead with your question, and then ask them to lower their hand once you're done answering the question. So another way that we can ask students to participate is, let's say I ask a question, so do you agree or disagree, or like a yes-no question, for example. I can say, okay, everyone, so on your participants, click on participants, and you're going to click the yes button if you think this is the case, or the no button if you think this is not the case. So then everyone can click, let's say, yes or no, and then you can have, you'll see what the answers are. So it's another way of using like polls, but it's a little bit less arduous. And then you can say, okay, yes, this is the answer. It was yes. Everyone just said yes, good job. And then you can ask them to unclick their yes button. And the other way that we have them participate is through the chat. So right now I'm chatting to everyone, but I can also chat to somebody privately if I don't want to disturb the class or send the message to all the users. But let's say I had an important question about the lecture slides or what was going on. I would click in here and I could then chat. Or if I were supporting on a meeting somewhere, let's say I was the tech support, then I could answer group chats in here while somebody else was lecturing.